So here we are again, yet another shooting tragedy, and lawmakers in Washington once again promising to make schools safer. 17 people died at a high school in Parkland, Florida on Wednesday. Lawmakers quick to share their condolences and demand changes to school safety and gun control.
We are responsible for a level of mass atrocity that happens in this country with zero parallel anywhere else.
We are committed to working with state and local leaders to help secure our schools and tackle the difficult issue of mental health.
However, as we have seen in the past, the debate about how to tackle these issues will be long, loud, and I bet money accomplish very little. You know, according to Everytown for Gun Safety, the shooting in Parkland's the 18th school shooting this year, ranks among the top 5 deadliest ever. And saying goodbye to young people, like these young people, has become all too common, whether in Florida, Connecticut, Arkansas, or right here in Colorado. And the hurt these scenes cause is deep. And our guests know that all too well. Both were students at Columbine High School in 1999, the April day when shots rang out. Craig Scott was a student at Columbine, came face to face with the shooters, lost his sister, Rachel Scott, and out of that tragedy, the Scott family has started a nonprofit called Rachel's Challenge, determined to take a horrific event and make a positive change in the world. And Missy Mendo was sitting in math class that day. She still struggles with insomnia to this day, and she now volunteers with an organization called the Rebels Project. Former Columbine students, a group providing support for those in need. I know these shootings are hard on all of us, but for the two of you, do you watch when these events happen? Do you follow social media? Do you watch the news coverage?
It depends. Certain things can be different triggers for everybody. So, you know, for instance, for myself, the Florida shooting this past week, seeing the students with their hands above their heads and running was something that kind of triggered with me. And so I backed away. I started watching the Olympics.
And Craig, for you?
I think I watched some of it. I can't dwell on it too much because it can be heavy. It can take you back into almost re-traumatizing yourself if you stay there too long. I think that though I look at it because I work in schools, and so I try to see if there's anything to be learned from what happened, and then it's also for me it's a reminder to continue the work that me and my family are trying to do, and it's just fuel for my fire to want to make a difference in the world.
When you say trigger, that it's a trigger for you, what does that mean?
It can be a multitude of things. It can be something that makes you feel uncomfortable, something that hits an anxiety, almost like a button, you know. It changes your mood, your thought process, your everything. It's almost like a warning that sends your head a message to your body.
And what do you two think when you hear, I mean, everybody has an opinion, right? They want to talk about gun control. They want to talk about what our schools are doing, what our parents are doing. Where do you think the conversation should be?
My conversation immediately goes to the survivors. My concern for them is it's happened to them now, and what can we do for them long term? Because a lot of these instances, people come to help right away. They rush in to help, they rush in, they're there, everything is great. And sadly, it is that way until the next incident, and then everything goes somewhere else. So here, you know, Craig and I are 20 years later, and there are still people that are affected by it daily. There are still people affected by it on a long-term basis. So even though there's all of those things going on in the world, my main concern is the long-term help, or any kind of help that we can get these other survivors and let them know they're not alone.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues that come up after such a tragedy happens, and it's understandable that some of them come up, and I think some of them people kind of roll their eyes and go, here we go again on an arguments on both sides. And for me, I want to be focused on solutions. I want to be focused on what can we do to make our culture better. Guns come up, school safety comes up, government comes up. But I think more on the individual level. I think about, I've run into teenagers over the years that have had plans to do violent things, and I've talked with them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like my message a lot is on an individual level where someone can step out and get a hold of that person that they see that's struggling, that's in a dark place. And if they have the right heart and they have some truth to share with that person, they build a little bit relationship, they can help pull that person away from that. I know of school shootings that have been prevented by this kind of thing happening. And so I look at what is it that I can do, what is it that I can tell other people that they can do in their daily lives. What are the biggest antidotes to anger and hatred and this negativity? It's kindness, it's reaching out, it's being connected. A lot of these shooters are very isolated, disconnected, tapped into negative influences, a lot over the social media. They do get the access to the guns. And so all of those are issues in their world. And I say, how can we break through this psyche in American teens that if you are hurting, you can either take your own life or you can take some people's lives with you. And that's become in the mind of the American psyche. It didn't used to exist. And I try to go into schools and say, that shouldn't exist at all. Here's the things that we can focus on when we're down. Here's the things that we can do when we're angry.
I know for both of you, you have chosen hope as your way. Is that how you cope? Is that how did you get to that point? This could not have been an easy path for either of you.
Mine was the Rebels Project had started when I was living somewhere else, and I was living on the East Coast, and Sandy Hook happened. And I remember thinking, my gosh, these are babies, you know, and the Rebels Project had started a teddy bear drive. So I did the teddy bear drive, and just seeing how other communities responded to helping other communities and the power and bond that had to help somebody else or potentially help somebody else was it for me. That was so inspiring for hope, and you know, letting these people know that they're not alone. There is somebody here that they can talk to. And I've always said that a hug from another survivor is different than a hug from somebody trying to console you. There's a different kind of a connection, and that's very important.
Yeah, and the words from a survivor, I'm sure, has the same impact. Craig, you get the final word here.
Yeah, I think people lose hope when they feel like things aren't going to change, when they feel like that the pain and the hurt and the darkness are just there to stay. And what I would say is that they're not there to stay. That pain can actually serve a purpose in your life. It can lead to part of your purpose. It can lead to passion. But it takes seeing through the tragedy. It takes seeing through the evil and trying to have. My sister wrote something in her class a month before the shooting in a paper. She titled "My Ethics, My Codes of Life," and she said, "Look hard enough, and you'll always find a light." And I think that's true of any person in any situation. And so I would say, try to see through that pain, that there is hope. You can get through this, and there is a brighter tomorrow.
Well, I love that both of you have taken on organizations, a focus of hope that gives all of us hope through Rachel's Challenge, through the Rebels Project. So thank you both for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you for having us.